we have insights from the makers of top bots. So like I said earlier, we know there's people who are here that are interested in entrepreneurship, in startups, in perhaps creating their own fantastic bot. We've assembled a panel of experts who are going to give you their insights and hopefully answer your questions about how they were successful with the chatbot that they built. So first, we have Sam Udatong, and he is the CTO of Fireflies Ai. So why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. So my name is Sam. I actually recently graduated from MIT and then moved out here to work full-time on this about a year ago. What Fireflies is an AI that sits in the background of your conversations and understands when you make promises and tasks. So in Slack, we'll automatically go and update your Trello board based on if you say things like, I need to go fix that bug, or I need to get back to you next week, we'll put that on your Trello. And then we're also working in the voice space and generating meeting notes from your conversations, looking at what are the most important things that you're saying.
Great. And next, yes. You don't look like Crystal. I'm assuming you're Jin Tanaka?
Yes, I am.
Founder of Foxy? Okay, fantastic. Why don't you tell us a little about yourself and your company?
Sure. Good morning, you guys. Good morning. Hello. Yay. Awesome. So, yeah, I'm CEO and founder of Foxy. I just, had a flight from Tokyo, kind of still jet lag. But anyway, so, about Foxy, what we does is we make an interaction between people, and through the messenger platform and Viber. So no matter what kind of messenger you use, Foxy can connect the right person based on your common interest and topic. That's what we do, and then behind the Foxy, we start to build the AI. We start to connect to business, brand, all the business together to the right customers. So that's what we do now.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you for coming all the way from Tokyo. So Harshal couldn't be here, even though I spent all night trying to pronounce the name of his company, Makeo. I always joke that I speak English, and I do that poorly according to the British. So forgive me with all my mispronunciations today. Next, we have Crystal Rose. She is the CEO and co-founder of Sensei. Oh, you're out of order, too. Okay. Fantastic.
We can start with Liz if you'd like. Okay, yeah, we'll go. All right, we'll go in order.
Okay.
Hi, everybody. I'm Liz. I am the co-founder of Converge. We are building bots for a handful of consumer brands, both in chat and in voice. I think that the one that I'll probably speak to the most today is the one that currently lives on Kick. It's called ShopSwag, and it's in partnership with Shopify. What it is a marketplace chatbot that allows Kick users to shop from thousands of different merchants, all in the same conversational experience. And just for some context, before I founded Converge in January of this year, I was at the messaging app Kick, where I built products for Sephora, Victoria's Secret, and H&M, along with a handful of non-branded bots in the fashion and beauty space.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Crystal Rose, the CEO and founder of Sensei. Sensei is an interoperable messaging platform that has a network of chatbots through every messenger or inside of Kick, as well as Slack, Facebook, Telegram, WeChat, Skype, basically anywhere that you can have a conversation. Sensei connects you to other humans anonymously and instantly in any messenger and allows you to transact. Sensei has a currency system called Sensei Coins, and in 14 days we are going to be releasing Cents, the new currency that's going to be able to be used on any application. We are doing this. We're a venture-backed company. We've raised $6 million from Norwest, Greycroft, Tim Draper, and others. We're based in LA. And we're now launching an ICO so that we can open these tokens up to the world. So we are the first chatbot platform to be doing an ICO, the first chatbots to be doing cryptocurrency.
First chatbot ICO. Excellent. And last, Alien Georgiev.
That's right.
Yes?
That's
yeah?
really good.
That's good?
Yeah.
I know I had the pronunciation app last night. My wife was laughing at me as I was using it. But I guess it worked. I hope it worked. CEO and co-founder of Hi Charlie.
Yeah. So what's Hi Charlie? We are, I guess, a chatbot that helps people be better with their personal finances. So we help ordinary people with their ordinary problems, which actually means we're helping most people outside of Silicon Valley. And in terms of progress, so we've been actually around for a couple of years now. Right now we're processing millions of financial transactions every day and hundreds of millions of in terms of spend for our users. In terms of my background, before that I was in gaming, mostly mobile gaming. So in 2011 I worked on a #1 top grossing app in the App Store. Think of any app, we made more money than them. And then I launched several other successful top grossing apps, and somehow I'm finding myself again in a new platform where that's growing really fast.
Great. So financial advice application.
Yeah.
So of course I have to ask you, should I buy this ICO these guys are doing tomorrow?
So see, this is exactly why we try to help people outside of Silicon Valley. So like to most people, like the biggest financial questions they have is, how am I going to pay my bills on time? Or you know, how can I save for my daughter's birthday? No one's out there in the real world is talking about ICOs.
Edge case.
Yeah.
Great. Well, why don't we start with you guys giving us some insights like that led you to building such successful apps, right? Like not designing for the Silicon Valley edge case. That's a pretty good one, and one that I would give anybody if you've been here for a couple of years.
Well, I think the first thing is to start with why bots? Like, why are we building bots? And the simple answer for that is most of everything that we do is in a conversational format. Amir said it earlier. We've been doing this for most of human history, and inside of our messaging applications, we're finally able to do all of the things we need to. We've looked around the world at all of the different types of devices and different people that are currently in places like Africa with very limited ability to connect to anything. So if you have a data plan, you might be able to get one application for free. That's what they give you on the prepaid. You can access Facebook Messenger. You can access WhatsApp. Globally, more people can access a messenger than can access any other application. So I think bots are the first step into giving people a new thing to do inside of that operating system. If we like to think of messengers as the top thing that people do, that's the messaging, that's the operating system of the future. We started Sensei inside of SMS, so the original application we started 3 years ago, and there were no bots or bot stores. We were very early with Facebook Messenger. Kik was one of the early to have a bot shop, and I think it was definitely a more innovative approach to know that the users are going to be staying in platform. Slack did the same for enterprise.
Great.
Yeah, I would just add on to the whole why bots conversation. Crystal's talking about Kik. And just FYI, I used to work there. They're by no means sponsoring this trip. So I really believe in the platform in that they have innovative features that Facebook Messenger doesn't have, that especially for the product that I'm talking about, which is the Shopify bot. The picture suggested responses are really, really nice for facilitating what feels like a seamless shopping experience. But beyond that, I think that all of us need to ask ourselves, what do users hope to get out of bots? What do users expect to get from bots? I think that probably, in 2016 when Facebook Messenger opened up their platform and everybody was so gung-ho on bots and conversational commerce, I think that a lot of us overestimated or, we misjudged where consumer behavior is at. We all need to keep in mind that we can't change consumer behavior. It's not going to be something that shifts seismically overnight. So while people in China are doing literally everything through bots, it's going to take some time for that to catch up over here. So if you're going to clients, hoping to pitch them bots and build them bots, and their expectation is that they are going to be releasing these products that are going to be moving the needle and helping them get sales that are going to contribute in a material way to their bottom line, I don't know if we're there yet. But that's not to say that bots aren't incredibly valuable for the engaging experiences that they facilitate and for the really interesting and actionable data that they allow you to collect.
Yeah, so I'm obviously from Asia, so I could add the the Asian perspective. First of all, everybody talked about WeChat, right? So actually, Foxy team, we are in the part of the accelerator program in Hong Kong. So we try to understand what's going on in China. And we started to ask a bunch of the people in Hong Kong and Chinese people, hey, what's going on? How do you use WeChat? And everything's done in WeChat. That's incredible. They don't bring wallet and cash. Everything's done. So they just can buy ticket. They just can pay taxi and everything's done. So it means the WeChat is obviously the infrastructure for them, how they spend their time, how their life is sustained by the WeChat. Also, another one is the Line, Japanese, the messenger platform. 78% of the Japanese people, they use Line every single day. So how they interact each other with people means the messenger platform. That's the way the business they can just bring into a new the touching point with the customers, right? So that's new things. Also, another one, like, I just also wanted to open up is, like, all the messenger platform, they start to open up to, like, the platform. So, like, we are building the platform together. Like, we means like everyone. So that's like a very, like, a good opportunity for us.
And for you, Sam? Yeah.
Yeah, and I think we learned pretty similar insights as well. We originally were building bots that, you have one-on-one conversation, you ask it for a couple things, and then it gives it back to you. But what we really found was that bots are a lot more powerful if they are already fitting into what people are already doing. And so we started looking at background bots, like how can we build bots that you don't have to talk to and that can take action on behalf of you while you're having conversation with your teammates. I think if you can build bots that facilitate already what people are doing and not trying to change their behavior, just I guess making it easier for them with as little friction as possible. I think that's where bots are so interesting. Looking at apps, I think there are people basically don't download apps these days. You'll download maybe one app a month, and I don't know if you use more than 5 or 6. And I think one of the big reasons is because it kind of makes you go out of your way and kind of put this massive pressure on you. I think bots are really advantageous because they allow that more seamless and frictionless interaction.
Great. So I love this question. So knowing what you know now, what would you have done differently when you started your endeavor or building your app or your company? So hindsight's always 20/20. So what is the feedback or advice you might help people out with based on your experience?
Decentralize it. So the reason that we built our bots initially in many messengers was because the user communities, while we all use multiple messengers, are distributed. And we also wanted to make it so that no one was locked up in any one tool. Just kind of like when you build an app and you have to build for an operating system, we wanted everyone to have the functionality across borders. So I think that was one of the key insights for us was starting with an interfaceless product, which was SMS. It was really important for us to say, okay, what would be the key components of this platform that would give the most functionality with the least amount of interface, and starting at the bare bones of it. That allowed us to move into all of the other bot platforms and just adopt their UI. It's a challenge to keep up with them. It's just like any API integration, but I think it's not as challenging as consistently releasing an app over and over and looking for downloads. So today there are a lot of different options, a lot of different platforms you can build on. I would say start with the most open ones.
Yeah, don't they call that build once, debug everywhere?
Yeah, exactly.
No, that was really flat, huh? Oh, okay, yeah, you got. I know, nerd jokes. You guys got it. Do you want to weigh in? Yeah.
One thing I would like to add that, okay, so I personally think that actually most bots out there suck, including ours sucked initially, and the reason for that is because it still sucks. The reason why that is the case is because actually most people don't understand why bots needs to exist. It's a very specific platform that solves very specific problems. So let's look at the existing platforms out there. So web is pull. You sit down on your computer and you go on Google and you pull information. Mobile is push. You don't do as much pulling on information. Information comes to you. You're all mostly interacting through notifications. And bots are the mobile of mobile. It's mostly interaction should be push. Most interaction should be super simple. But the one thing that we didn't really take into account very early on was that the interaction has to have a lot of emotional charge. Because this is a conversation. So we focused a lot on making the interaction mostly push. We focused a lot on making the interaction very, very simple and timely. But we didn't spend enough time codifying the persona that is Charlie. Even though we knew that was one of the big problems, especially when it comes to money, people are overwhelmed by complexity, people are overwhelmed by the timeliness, it's the end of the month, who wants to sit down and analyze what they did over the last 30 days. But if it's in the moment and we give you the actionable advice at the time, you're going to take it. But the thing that also really prevents all the people in our generation being good with money is just it's so intimidating, right? There's this funny stat that gets thrown around fintech circles that 3/4 of millennials would rather go to the dentist than talk to a banker. We don't want to talk to a guy wearing a suit behind a desk, looking down on us, telling us how bad we are with money. So for us, a key part of the experience is the emotional charge and the personality that Charlie carries. And to make that really work, the the bot needs to be vulnerable and needs to take risks. But for you to be able to take risks as a copywriter, when you have a bigger team, you need to know what the rules are. So the one thing I wish we did really early on was define what the rules are. What can Charlie say and what Charlie cannot say. Because even if early on, when it's just you and a few other people in the room, it's very easy to know what the emotional charge of the interaction is. But later on, when you add more and more people, each next person is less likely to take risks because they just don't want to say something that the bot is not supposed to say, and as a result, the experience kind of becomes a little bland. And I would advise against that because I think that's one of the unique advantages of bots is that you can actually have a real emotional conversation with the user, much better than, let's say, a web or a mobile app.
How do you add emotion to the conversation? Can you give an example?
I think just emoting right away. So that's one thing. One of the things we have when you design a new interaction is it has to be simple and it has to be timely. And one of the easiest ways to make something simple is to add emotion to it. That's just our brain is built that way. So even though like money is like really, really abstract, like when someone asks, hey, what's my balance? That nobody actually really wants to know what's my bank balance. Nobody actually really wants to know the number. What you really want to know is, am I supposed to worry about this or am I supposed to feel good about this? Right? So what we try to do is like lead always with the emotion. Hey, good news, hey, bad news, hey, heads up, or whatever the situation is. And then I think something that we found really, really important is that like it's never the user's fault. Like Charlie is always going to apologize, and Charlie's never going to judge. So, but that's just specific to our interaction. I think it really depends on the kind of experience you're building to figure out what emotional need you're solving for the user, and to build and to make sure you convey those emotions.
Does anyone else on the panel have a similar experience, philosophy, or approach?
Yeah, I would agree with all of that. And I would also say that it's important to keep in mind that the way that people communicate via text is very different than the way that people communicate via email or via telephone. And I think all of us have probably talked to a live agent. Probably raise your hand if you've talked to a live agent, like in a chat window on the web. Okay. Yeah. So isn't it obnoxious when you're talking to one of those people and it's just so obvious that they're merely typing from a script and it just seems so impersonal and so canned? It's like basically, I feel like a good chatbot, you probably know that that you're actually talking to a chatbot and that it isn't a human. But a good chatbot almost feels more human than a bad live agent. So I think that mistakes that bot makers make in the early days is honestly not giving enough time and enough attention to the details and nuances that go into creating a really compelling conversation. And it seems like an easy enough thing to put off because it's such a small amount of copy, but it's very important. And then a really obvious way to infuse emotion into these experiences is emoji. And also just knowing what demographic you're looking to engage and talking to them appropriately. I mean, for instance, a bot that's going to live on Kik that is aimed at the 13 to 18-year-old audience is going to speak differently than a bot for a luxury brand that lives on Facebook Messenger or on their website, or so on and so forth. So I think it really is just knowing who it is that you want to talk to, who it is that you want to engage, and figuring out how to balance that with the brand's existing identity. And I think that probably 5 years from now, maybe even sooner than that, the notion of a conversational brand identity is going to be something that every brand has nailed down, much like they have their brand identity nailed down now.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I think Sensei has about 50% more emojis in Kik than any other platform, exclamation points included. It is really important to know who you're speaking to. And I think that's the other thing that we identified really early on was to make everyone aware that we know that our bot is completely dumb. Our bot is here to facilitate connections between humans for good conversations. And within that conversation is a transaction. And so we set that precedent so that we were not keeping the expectation high that we're going to have some AI that's going to know me and have a very good conversation, because really all AI is in preschool right now. We're just training them, they're just learning, and especially if they're going to learn about you, you're going to have a lot of interaction. So I think setting the precedent really early and being kind of humorous about it is really important. The users appreciate it. They're not dumb. They think the bots are dumb. And I think that we're emerging into an era of AI, but we're still a little far from it. Most chatbots are basically flowcharts. So that's where giving variable responses comes in. That's where giving emotion comes in. We can do a lot more fun things with them to make them seem smarter.
And I mean, just one more thing. To be honest, it typically is a much better user experience to have the flowchart or decision tree thing running in the background that Crystal described. It makes it easier for the user. It makes the user immediately able to understand exactly what the bot is, what it does, and what you can get from it. You know, it sounds really alluring to infuse your bot with this really sophisticated AI, and for certain products, it definitely makes a lot of sense. But I mean, in my headspace where I'm at working with consumer brands, I want to, you know, make it very clear what the bot can and can't do. And it doesn't make any sense for the brand to have deployed this crazy sophisticated product so that users can go on and talk about the Yankees game or something. I mean, that's just not, it's not in anybody's interest. So I believe Jin can probably speak to this much better than I could, but I believe that most of the experiences in the Asian markets, I mean, it's a very much a menu-driven experience.
Yeah, it's like when people start to think about like what the definition of bot, everybody think about like a bot's gonna speak like super smart, like everybody can understand everything about, but that's not gonna happen yet. So that's the probably like an easy way we can make it up the like conversation flow, and based on that, it's not necessary to even build just have a conversation within your friends or like the segment that's like you want to provide, and based on that, probably you could start to look for the each platform, right? So like a Kik, Facebook, even like our case, we have like a lot of users from Viva. So each platform has really different audience, also like a type of the service, and even like UI and API they provide is really different. So that's like before you start to build, you just can prepare, but think about like what kind of service you could build, and that's gonna happen. Plus I don't think like like even like a consumer type of the bot like that's we built. Even like probably like a Burberry and Tommy Hilfiger is like one famous example, but I don't think like people just gonna buy like over 20,000 like a sweater through Chatbot yet. But the thing they provide provide the information, right? The insight of the product. On the other hand, like Tommy Hilfiger, like what they do is like engage they are like current the seasonal like model or something like that. So it's really different use case. So that's every like business also like entrepreneur they can start to think about what the example of the service and the bot.
And then going back to the question about what would my advice be for people, new botpreneurs, I think it would be very similar advice to like other entrepreneurs. I think it would be around making sure that you're building something that people are going to use consistently and or has a path of monetization. I think like that's one mistake that a lot of bot people make. And even if you're building the smartest bot with the latest NLP and it can respond to you in the best way, at the end of the day, if you want to build a business, it's going to have to generate engagement and have a path to revenue. So one thing that we would have done differently is definitely try and sell that final vision before even building anything. One of the mistakes that we made was building out. We spent a couple of weeks building basically a replica of Trello that would just auto update based on your conversation. It turns out that the Zapier integration was like more than enough, and so that was kind of a waste. But I think just looking back to mistakes that I would make would be around making sure that you're building something that people will use consistently and pay for, and trying to figure that question out before building.
Do all the bots you guys have built, do they self-identify themselves as a bot, or do any of them pretend to be a human or something in between that I'm not smart enough to figure out?
Yeah, so we adopted a robot personality, just Fireflies, no human name, but.
I think it's very important for bots to have a personality, but a bot shouldn't try to pose as a human. I mean, for one thing, it's probably going to look really stupid if it tries to do that, given the state that bots are in right now. I mean, you're probably not going to fool anybody if they start asking it the tough questions. But particularly for brands, giving the bot the right personality is paramount. If you are, a clothing brand, you want your bot to take on the personality of the ideal salesperson, and that's how you want them to talk.
So we believe that the future of intelligence is not artificial, that it's human. And I think that if we think about artificial anything, we typically veer away from it. We want organic more than artificial. So we look at the intersection of the two things, and Foxy does this as well, where you have the artificial intelligence layer or the bot layer if you haven't gotten quite that far to put in NLP or to put in some more sophisticated technology. And then you have the human layer, which could just be your consumer. It could just be the person that's talking to the bot. We see the middle as augmented intelligence. So really a future in which we create bots that will help augment us and make us better rather than replace us. That's the bright-looking future of AI. And I think that in that, let's continue to have these agents that have their personalities, have their identities, but we're very clearly defining the difference between a human and a bot or an AI.
I agree. I just want to add something to your point about knowing your market early on, and that's something that we did when we were starting that I would recommend everyone else to do is, so we spent 3 to maybe 6 months just testing ads before we wrote a single line of code. Well, first we spent about 6 months figuring out, talking to users and figuring out, okay, how do you think about money, and like figuring out what the problems are, what's stopping them, and then we figured out, okay, this actually needs to be a simple, timely interaction. What's simple and timely? SMS. Bots weren't even a thing yet. We didn't know that it was a bot. But then we didn't write any code. We just spent many months testing different ads to figure out, because you don't need to build a product to figure out whether people want it and how much it's going to cost to acquire users. You can just put up ads pretending the product exists. And the added value of that is also figure out who your market is. So you start targeting, okay, let's target people in their early 20s, late 20s, 30s, 40s, men, women, different life events. And then pretty quickly you see where your lowest cost to acquire users are. And then you figure out, okay, this is where this type of value prop resonates the most. Now we know who we're building for, and that really allows you to focus initially. Because one of the worst things when you're starting a new product out is like the world is your oyster, right? So you can build like anything and everything. So as a result, you can like go in all kinds of directions and do 10 different things badly as opposed to one thing really well. And early on, that's what you need, the latter.
Do you still buy ads for user acquisition, and how do other people address user acquisition?
For us, for sure, because like personal finance is generally not a viral space. Like you don't have people sitting around a table talking about, hey, I found this great thing to talk to me about money. It's
ICOs.
Yeah, unless it's ICOs. Maybe we should go into the like ICOs referral thing. But yeah, so as a result, we always focus on paid acquisition and any organic that happens, and we encourage. We're thankful for, but we're not counting on it. That's the nature of personal finance.
I'm happy to chat about ICOs. You can find me on SenseiBot if it connects to me or the other, however many other people there are currently today talking about ICOs. That was sort of one of the initial missions for us, was to democratize expertise and allow anybody who has the time and the capacity and ability who wants to talk to connect through the chatbots. We have gone down every path of paid acquisition. We also found that the initial acquisition was completely by referral, and that's what I recommend. Build something that people love, get it into the hands of the initial users, and give them a really, really compelling referral mechanism. So for us, we launched in SMS first. We accidentally scaled. We didn't really want people to know about our test product because it's very expensive. We were built on top of Twilio. Within 9 months, we had 1 million users, and we had a 6-figure monthly bill. So I would be cognizant of where you're building your bots as well. Really, fortunately, we have a lot of chat platforms, but I still think SMS is the most ubiquitous messenger. 5 billion people have it. 3.5 billion have data. And I think there's something like 2 billion that are connected through social messengers that we can access, at least in the US. So, look at where your audience is, and then look at how you can build in those referral mechanisms. Kik, Facebook Messenger, and a few others have really cool features where you can pull the whole contact list. You can allow your users to refer. It's just a matter of, do you have a product that has a potential for virality? Is it a social product? Typically on a chatbot product, it's one-to-one. And in products like ours, we're connecting many humans together, or many people. So I think really it's your strategy for acquisition stems from your ability to find a referral mechanism that works really well. But I would veer away from, at least for us, Facebook Messenger or Facebook advertising in general, just because it's such a high CPA, and look to organic growth if you can.
Yep, I agree with all of that. One of the products that I built on Kik, actually for BeautyCon, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's like Comic-Con meets with beauty industry. We wanted to ramp up their user base very quickly in advance of the program last year. And so immediately upon launching the bot, what we did was we launched a contest. And in order to enter into the contest, to be entered into, it was a sweepstakes, not a contest, to be entered into the random draw, users simply had to share the bot with a friend. And for every new friend that they would bring to the bot to chat with the bot, they would get one entry. So you got to get creative. You got to do stuff like that. There are a ton of ways to drive organic growth and virality. And like Crystal said, I think that they're far preferred, far recommended at this point over paid advertisement on Facebook.
All right. So I'm going to have to cut you guys off. We have to stay on schedule. And I know that people are excited to hear more from our panelists. So if I could ask you all to go outside and have your conversations there so we can stay on schedule. So yes, we'll have a short break and then we'll be right back.